So this morning, according to the news, it seems that the Turkish and Kurd ceasefire is holding for now. But there's something about what is written in book of Revelation in chapter 9. Is it chapter 9? No, it's the one in chapter 16, I believe. All right. Something about this. You know, we folks, we need to start reading things sometimes exactly as it is written. You look in verse 12, it says, "And the sixth angel poured out his vial upon the great river Euphrates, and the water thereof was dried up or wasted away, so that the road," well, there are roads now across the Euphrates River, "of the king of Anatolia might be prepared." Okay? Does that say there is an invasion? Well, we know that an invasion into northern Israel is going to happen with the Gog-Magog war, right? But it doesn't say it right here. But what happens next here in verse 13? "And I saw three unclean spirits like frogs come out of the mouth of the dragon, out of the mouth of the beast, and out of the mouth of the false prophet." And the dragon, that is the how do you say, the mascot of Roman Europe. I know some people really find that hard to believe. It is. It is the mascot of Roman Europe. Let me show you something, folks. Red dragon at the Vatican. There it is right there. This. It's at the Vatican. See? Now, let's have a look. I don't want to stray too far away from where I was going here. You can look here. Okay, so curiously, one of the popes adopted the winged serpent or dragon as his symbol on the heraldic shield. So, when I say that the red dragon is the mascot of Roman Europe, I don't sound like a kook after all, do I? Here is the heraldic coat of arms of Pope Gregory the 13th, 1572 to 1585, who is most known for initiating calendar reform we use today, the Gregorian calendar. You know, the one who thought to change the times, as is written in the book of Daniel. And you can confirm this in the book, the Pope Encyclopedia by Matthew Bunsen. You see, folks. And of course, this is right. It's right. That's right at the entrance, one of the entrances of the Vatican. All right. All right. So you can see which direction this is coming from. Out of the mouth of the beast, that's Roman Europe, and out of the mouth of the false prophet. Now, I've proven time and time again the false prophet was the Patriarch of Jerusalem, who was a Byzantine. The Byzantines are now the Eastern Orthodox Church of Greece, Russia, etc. But let's see. Remember what John said. He was the one that fooled the people, deceived the people with this fire from heaven, as they say. What is it? Holy fire. Right here. Yeah. This is the fire that they deceived the people with. Fire that burned, oh no. The holy fire is described by Orthodox Christians as a miracle that occurs every year at the Church of the Holy Sepulchre in Jerusalem. Yes, the false prophet, the beast that rises out of the Oretz, or the land of Israel, aka Jerusalem. All right, now that we have context, folks, let's go back to Revelation 16. For they are spirits of devils working wonders or signs, which go forth unto the kings of the earth and the whole world to gather them to the battle of that great day of Jehovah Almighty. Which ones? Which ones? Well, the out of the mouth of the dragon, that appears to be the Vatican, somebody in the Vatican. Out of the mouth of the beast, that would be Roman Europe. And out of the mouth of the false prophet, that would be the current so-called Patriarch of Jerusalem. And of course, he represents the Byzantines or the Eastern Orthodox Church. For what? In response to this. Does it say that the king of Anatolia invades Syria? No, it doesn't say that. It just says that the road of the kings of the king, singular, of Anatolia, Turkey, is prepared. Simple enough. Now, apparently the road has been prepared. There are several bridges across the Euphrates River now. I don't know how high or how large the river Euphrates used to be. It used to be, that's why they call it great. You look at it today, it doesn't look very great. All right? So this event, something here happens so that the road of the kings of the east might be prepared, and then this happens. Well, folks, let me show you something. Now, Guy Verhofstadt of Europe, he's been talking about this EU army for quite some time. You know, demanding over and over again the EU needs to have their own army. And of course, Nigel Farage in Great Britain wants to have no part of it. This is one of the reasons why he led the Brexit movement in Great Britain. And I saw this 5 days ago, and I thought about it, took it to heart, and I did not see much anymore about it until I believe it was last night or this morning. I decided at this point it would be time for me to do a video about this. EU Army Verhofstadt insists high time Europe takes matters into its own hands. He has called for an EU army insisting okay. So he gives his reasoning. So, you know, you find any reason you want, and he found him a reason. Trump gave him a reason. Since Trump became president, the U.S. is not a reliable ally anymore. High time for a European army to take matters in our own hands. The Belgian politician's comments came after Mr. Trump faced criticism for withdrawing U.S. troops from Syria. Turkey launched an offensive against Kurdish forces in Syria when Mr. Trump pulled the U.S. out last week. European leaders are expected to use a 2-day Brussels summit, which kicked off yesterday, to send a tough message to Ankara. EU governments, most of which belong to NATO, agreed on Monday to suspend new arms sales to Turkey, which is also a member of the military alliance. Before heading to Brussels on Thursday, Italian Prime Minister Conte urged Turkish President Erdogan in a telephone call to halt the offensive in war-ravaged Syria. Speaking afterwards, Mr. Conte said, "I reiterated Italy's firm call to suspend this military initiative. I have asked Erdogan to withdraw troops back to Turkish territory." So as we can see here, it appears that the Europeans are far more concerned about this Turkish incursion into Syria than the United States current government is. Well, folks, I briefly touched on the Crusades yesterday, and the Crusades were in this way. The Muslim Turks were invading European countries, Eastern European countries, and the Byzantium, and they were begging for help from mainland Europe, from Rome. So the Romans, the Europeans went and gathered up their armies to go. The idea was to go and to help their brothers of the Byzantines against the Turks, but as you found out yesterday, there were many that said, "Why should we go all the way over there and fight the enemy when we got plenty of them over here?" And then they began to attack and kill the Jews. And then, of course, one of the Crusades, I think it was the Sixth Crusade, that when the Byzantines were under attack again, begging for help from the Romans, from Europe, when the Europeans finally got there, they found out that the Byzantines didn't have the money to pay them. So what did they do? What did the Romans do? What did the 10 Toes do? They sacked Constantinople, burned it to the ground, just like what it reads in the book of Revelation, right? What I'm saying is, there were many, many, many crusades, and they were supposed to be against the Turks, against the Muslim Turks. But it always ended up being against, or almost always ended up being against somebody else. There were times when they did fight the Turks. A lot of times they were defeated. One time they did manage to take Jerusalem. Then they went and killed Jews in Jerusalem. You see a pattern here, folks? For the past couple of months, I've been saying over and over again that Europe is going to go for one more crusade. All right? This is what I'm talking about here. So they're talking about, oh, the terrorists have been freed from detention centers following the In other words, the United States has abandoned Europe, is what these guys are trying to say. So then I saw another article. Is it this one? Oh, yeah. Let's look at this one. Germany discusses idea of northern Syria security zone with NATO's Stoltenberg. Brussels, this is from Reuters. NATO Secretary General Jens Stoltenberg said on Wednesday that he has spoken to German Defense Minister Annegret Kramp-Karrenbauer about her idea to create a security zone in northern Syria, saying he welcomed any proposal on a way towards peace. Yes, they keep talking peace, don't they? Stoltenberg asked about the French President Emmanuel Macron's criticism of NATO's reaction to Turkey's Syria offensive, said differences at the alliance on the issue were a matter of public record, and he said it was up to NATO allies to decide it individually. if they wish to reconsider deployment of Patriot missiles in Turkey, adding that defense ministers will discuss the issue on Thursday at a meeting at the NATO headquarters. So while the United States of America is trying to hold on to this disjointed NATO alliance, and even I read an article the other day that Jens Stoltenberg was trying to, tell the Europeans, look, tone it down, tone it down. We have got to keep this alliance together. But apparently Germany, France, and Italy, and others, Belgium, they have other ideas. Well, let's look at this article. Now, folks, disclaimer here. This is a World Socialist website. And those of you who know me know that socialism is the enemy of the Jews. Socialism murdered millions and millions of Jews. Therefore, socialism is my mortal enemy. Sometimes you have to watch what your enemy is doing and saying. So I'm going to read from this. This is by Alex Lantier. Germany, U.S. threaten war amid Russia-Turkey summit in Syria. And now, folks, Pompeo, his little threat was meaningless, just so you know. It was absolutely meaningless. When you find out what was going on behind the scenes with Rudy Giuliani and Senator Lindsey Graham. As Turkish President Erdogan flew to Russia resort of Sochi for a summit yesterday with President Vladimir Putin on the war in Syria. This is dated today. Berlin and Washington issued blood-curdling threats of all-out war in the Middle East. In Washington, there was a bitter debate, is unfolding over Trump's Middle East policy. Secretary of State Mike Pompeo threatened war with Turkey, a NATO ally and a major regional military power. Asked for his reaction to the Turkish military offensive against the Kurds, Pompeo replied, "We prefer peace to war. But in the event that kinetic action or military action is needed, you should know that President Trump is fully prepared to undertake that action." Now, that's a direct quote. So that's accurate, all right? It's meaningless, but the quote is accurate. The most aggressive proposal, however, came from where? Berlin, where Defense Minister Annegret Kramp-Karrenbauer called for a massive European Union force to occupy, folks. Now, look at these words here. To occupy northern Syria. What they really mean is to remove Turkish troops from northern Syria. Sound familiar? Sound familiar? I've been saying that the EU, Europe, wants to have one more crusade, folks. Supposedly working in coordination with Russia and Turkey. Supposedly is right on target, folks. My proposal is that we would set up an internationally controlled safe zone involving Turkey and Russia, she said. I believe that would be a strong political and diplomatic response of the European powers in NATO. Now this is where it gets, this is what struck me. This is what got my attention. Tens of thousands of troops from Germany, Britain, France, and other EU states. Oh, you see, Nigel Farage was right. He wanted to pull Great Britain out of the EU because he knew that they were going to draft the British boys into the EU army, which would be run by, guess who? Germany. And he wants no part of it. Tens of thousands. Wow. That sounds very familiar to Revelation. Let's see, is it, no, not 16, it would be 9. So watch this. Tens of thousands, huh? All right, in verse 16, this is on the Euphrates River, folks. And the number of the army of the horse or the cavalry were not 200,000, no. It is 10,000. 10,000. What's 10,000? Well, 10,000 is 20,000. What's another 10,000? That's 30,000, right? So if you're going to read this exactly as John said, it could mean only 20,000. But if you're going to read this exactly as John said, it would be 30,000. All right? And I listened to the number of them. Sounds to me like he knew the exact number, and so he said it. He stated it. Now, here's what I'm getting at. The Messiah said that his coming would be like a thief in the night, which means people won't see it coming. Well, if 200 million men showed up in the Jezreel Valley, the whole world would know what was about to happen next. But if it was only 20 or 30,000 men, it's just another day in the park. That's it. Everybody thinks, why? Conventional wisdom. Conventional wisdom. The educated of theology class, they were told 200 million. That's not right. The word is myriads and myriads, but a myriad is 10,000. It says 2 myriads and myriads. Or 2 myriads and a myriad. Or it could be just 2 myriads. 20,000. Let's go back to this particular article and let's see what it says. Tens of thousands of troops from Germany, Britain, France, and other EU states would be mobilized under this proposal in the largest EU overseas occupation force in decades. Roderick Kaiswetter, a former German army staff officer serving as a foreign policy specialist for Kramp-Karrenbauer Christian Democratic Union, estimated that 30 to 40,000 troops would be involved. Well, what do you know? So I wonder when they're going to start this. Kramp-Karrenbauer is to argue for her proposal at tomorrow's NATO defense ministers meeting in Brussels. I guess that would happen on the 24th. The proposal testifies for the vast shift to the right in official European politics over the past decade. For the first time since the fall of the Nazis in 1945, Berlin is proposing an international military operation. You see, folks? Previously, it supported wars launched by Washington, Paris, or other powers. Since Berlin began to militarize its foreign policy, however, shortly after Washington backed off from bombing Syria in 2013, politicians and right-wing extremist academics. Now, folks, this is a socialist website. Please understand this. I spoke about it in the beginning of the video. Okay. After Washington backed off from bombing Syria in 2013, politicians and right-wing academics have ceaselessly promoted militarism to try to overcome deeply rooted popular opposition. Amid a military buildup across Europe, France and Sweden have announced timelines for restoring the draft. Collectively, the EU powers have pledged to pour hundreds of billions of euros into their militaries over the coming years. Kramp-Karrenbauer's remarks show that this buildup aims not to make Europe safe for democracy against foreign invasion, but to prepare the EU powers to wage their own neo-colonial wars in oil-rich regions key to their strategic interests. Well, that's their opinion, but they might be right. No, just so you know that the socialists love to call Americans imperialists, and they like to call everybody that's their enemy imperialists. So just bear that in mind. But that does not make it true or false. Just remember that. Imperialist circles in both America and Europe are outraged at the military and financial advantages that could accrue to Russia, Iran, and China from their defeat in Syria. Once recent essay from the U.S. Brookings Institute think tank complained the prospect of lucrative reconstruction deals has triggered a deluge of interest from governments and firms looking to profit from Syria's devastation. Brookings Institute. Interesting. The regime's closest allies, Russia and Iran, have been the most prominent beneficiaries of the Syrian reconstruction gold rush, with China not far behind. Yes, folks. Yes, folks. Europe wants to get in on the monetary action. As a trade war escalates between Washington and the EU with threats of billions of dollars in trade war tariffs on both sides, U.S.-EU geostrategic divisions are also widening. However, the EU powers also view the defeat of NATO's Islamist and Kurdish proxies in Syria and the victory of Russian-backed Syrian regime President Bashar al-Assad as a threat to their strategic interests and world position. As Berlin seeks to advance its own independent interests, it does so for now under the increasingly thin and unsteady cover of the NATO alliance. In the article titled, "What the Syrian Debacle Means for the Middle East and Europe," German news magazine Der Spiegel warned, now that the U.S. has withdrawn from northern Syria, a trio of autocrats is dividing the country up between them. Rarely has a single act in global politics triggered such a rapid chain of events as the U.S. pullout of Syria last week. And that's true, folks. That is absolutely true. Calling Trump's Kurdish policy the end of a world power, Der Spiegel continued, "A changing of the guard is taking place in Europe. The West has surrendered. The Europeans and the Americans have repeatedly condemned the atrocities in Syria, but they have done little to prevent them. Meanwhile, the despots, Assad, Erdogan, and Putin, are emerging as the victors." This is in the Der Spiegel magazine, folks. Are emerging the victors, and the consequences will be felt far beyond the Middle East. So you see what's going on, folks? Up the irons. Call to arms in Europe to wage one more crusade. And what were the crusades waged for anyway? For money. for payment. And when they didn't get it, in the Sixth Crusade, I believe it was, when they didn't get paid, they pillaged, raped, and destroyed Constantinople. EU denunciations of Middle East despots reek of hypocrisy. The plain fact is that the imperialist powers currently face a humiliating defeat in the Middle East, where they bear responsibility for decades of war launched on the basis of lies, provocations like the claim that the Iraq regime had weapons of mass destruction used to justify the 2003 invasion of Iraq. Well, that's a whole other subject I'm not going to get into today. This is on the Socialist website, folks. Some people might say that I have reduced my reputation a lot by posting from the World Socialist website. But if I have to do so to expose what the EU is up to, then I'll do it. You got to understand that prophecy is being fulfilled before our very eyes, and you better find the truth wherever you can. Once again, disclaimer, this website is a World Socialist website. I absolutely and unequivocally reject everything that socialism represents. Everything. This article is exposing the intentions of the EU, because Donald Trump is pulling American troops away from Syria. Now they believe that they are the ones that have the authority, the moral authority, to take over where the United States left off. And that really does fit in with the sixth trumpet sound, right here, and with the sixth vial. Please listen to the video that I posted yesterday. You're going to get more context of the seven seals, the seven trumpets, and the seven vials of wrath. It appears that these several visions that John had were actually one. Same way that Joseph pointed out to Pharaoh that the two dreams that he had were actually one. Pay attention. Once again, I'm telling you that if 200 million men were to show up in the Jezreel Valley, the whole world would know it's Armageddon time. The problem is, folks, the problem is when you read the words of Paul, thief in the night. Okay, we will, all right, watch this. 1 Thessalonians 5, words of Paul. For you yourselves know perfectly that the day of Jehovah's wrath, that's what that is, not the day of the Lord, the day of Jehovah's wrath, so comes as a thief in the night. Let me tell you something, folks. If 200 million men showed up in the Jezreel Valley in front of Armageddon, the whole world would know that it's Armageddon time. But Paul is saying here that they will not know. They will not know. The times and the seasons, brethren, you have no need that I write to you, for you yourselves know perfectly that the day of Jehovah's wrath so comes as a thief in the night, because when they shall say peace and safety, and boy, are they ever. Peace, that's all they ever say. It's peace, peace, peace. We gotta keep the peace. Then sudden destruction comes upon them as in a sudden. We're not talking, I don't think we're talking 200 million people here, folks, going to the Jezreel Valley. I think we're only talking maybe 20, 30, maybe 40,000. But when they shall say peace and safety, then sudden destruction comes upon them, and travail upon a woman, and they shall not escape. Thief in the night. All right? Peter mentions it too. Second Peter 3 and verse 10. And incidentally, the Catholics, they do not believe the 2 Peter 3, the whole chapter at all. They reject it outright. But the day of Jehovah's wrath will come as a thief in the night, in which the heavens or the atmosphere will pass away with a great bang, great noise. Now, you know what happens when you rip up the atmosphere, right? The jet planes do that when they break the sound barrier. That'll give you an idea, a taste of what it's going to sound like. Will pass away with a great noise, and the elements will melt with fervent heat. What elements? Well, what's happening is the throne of Jehovah is coming down to the Temple Mount. And what is sitting on the Temple Mount, folks? Things that should not be there. What's going to happen to those things which should not be on the Temple Mount? They're going to be melted with fervent heat. And the earth and its works will be burned up. Isaiah 24, I believe. You can find it. I think so. There's going to be a lot of fire on the earth as a result of the fierce anger of Jehovah. All right? This is what's going to happen. It's going to be suddenly, like a thief in the night. People are not going to know. They're not even going to know what triggered it. And one of the reasons is because they're money-grubbing preachers. I've told them lies. My dad taught me a long time ago. I used to hear him. This is back when I might have been in my single digits. The majority is always wrong. Where did he get that from? Well, he got that from straight and narrow is the way to life, and very few are those that find it. But wide is the gate that leads to destruction. And there are many, many, many that go through that gate. There's a whole lot of different ways to say it. That was one of them. And another way to say it is conventional wisdom is wrong. So when you go and read the Bible, you better not take the King James Version or the other versions at face value, because you're going to be led astray if you do. You better seek Bible helps. For instance, Strong's Concordance. Now, Strong's Concordance is not 100% accurate, but it is close enough to get you where you need to be. Now, I have pointed this out over and over again. What has caused me to doubt? What has caused me to doubt the conventional wisdom? Well, when I was 19, 20 years old, I used to hear these preachers talk about songs with subliminal messages. And they would run their record player backwards to try to get messages that say glory to Satan and all this other sort of thing, which it did not say. It's all nonsense. It's nonsense. Well, they would tell lies to make people afraid of modern music. Now, all they would have had to do is say, is quote the scripture where it says, "Love not the world nor the things that are up in the world." Right? That's all they needed to say. But no, they wanted to scare the people. But of course, the problem is their narratives are paper thin and can be easily proven false, causing people to become atheists or unbelievers altogether. I won't go into the fact that they every Sunday church they sing their glory to Satan. You know, I've talked about that before. There's no need for me to talk about it right now. What I'm saying is people are not going to be aware because they were taught incorrectly. One more scripture and I think I'll be done with this. As the days of Noah. Luke 17:26. All right, it says, for as, we'll go to 20, verse 22. He said to his disciples, "The day will come when you shall desire to see one of those days of the Son of Man, and you will not see it." Yeah, because there will be terrible days. No healing of the sick, no nothing. And that's where we're at right now. And they shall say unto you, "See here or see there." Don't go after them. They're liars. This is what I'm talking about, folks. Go not after them or follow them. For as the lightning that shines out of one part of the sky and lightens the other part of the sky, so shall the Son of Man be in the future. But first he must suffer many things and be rejected of this generation. Not be rejected of the Jews, be rejected by that generation. And it says, and as it was in the days of Noah, so shall it be also in the days of the Son of Man when he comes. They ate, they drank, they married, and were given in marriage until the day that Noah entered into the ark, and the flood came and destroyed them all. Likewise, so shall it be in the days of Lot. They did eat, they drank, everything was normal, folks. How could it be everything was normal if... You see what's going on here, folks? This is now that's the reason why you should listen to the video that I did yesterday, and it will provide context for this one. They ate, they drank, they bought, they sold, they planned, they built. And on the same day that Lot went out of Sodom, it rained fire and brimstone from the sky and destroyed them all. Even shall it be in the day when the Son of Man is revealed. In that day, he that is on the housetop and his stuff in the house, let him not come down to take it away. Why? Well, the angels are going to come and gather them up, and they're going to say, "Whoever you are, it's time to leave. Follow me." You drop whatever it is that you're doing. Don't turn around. Don't try to go and get something out of your house. Nope. You do exactly what the angel tells you to do. Otherwise, you will end up like Lot's wife. He that is on the housetop and his stuff in the house, let him not come down to take it away. He that is in the field, let him likewise not go back home. No. You do what the angel tells you to do. If he has an aircraft to pick you up, to take you somewhere, go with the angel. We don't know how it's going to be done yet, but it appears Elijah the prophet went aboard the chariot of Israel, the one that took them away from the land of Israel to another land. And it says right here, remember Lot's wife. Whosoever shall seek to save his life. In other words, it's going to be a time of calamity. Bam! When this happens. And if you go and try to hide yourself to save your life, you're going to lose it. And whosoever is willing to risk his life, the same shall save it. He shall preserve it. Willing to risk his life to do what? You've got to abandon everything that you've got. You've got your guns in your house. You've got your supplies, your victuals, your food. When it's time to go, it's time to go. You can't stay here. You got to leave it all behind. You got to have faith. You got to walk out empty-handed. Makes you feel vulnerable, doesn't it? That's what he's talking about. And whosoever shall lose his life shall preserve it. I tell you, in that night there will be 2 men in one bed, and one shall be taken, and the other one shall be left. It's written that the angels are going to gather the elect, and the elect are Israel, for the patriarch's sake. Romans 11, verse 26 through 28. Read it. Wake up. Get up. Get up. Time to go. Let's go. There's the guy. He's still sleeping. Come on, let's go. Where are we going? Just follow me. Don't grab anything. Just go. Don't carry a gun with you. Don't even bother with that, because that's seeking to save your life. 2 women shall be grinding together, and one shall be taken, and the other one left. 2 men will be in the field. One shall be taken, and the other left. And when they answered, it said, where are they going to be taken? Where are they going to be taken? The answer is to the mountains of Israel. How do I know this? Ezekiel 38 and 39. He said unto them, where the dead body is, there will the vultures be gathered together. Ezekiel 39. The slaughter of Gog's armies. We'll go down here where it says, verse 17, you son of man, thus saith Jehovah Elohim, speak to every feathered fowl, to every beast of the field. Tell them, assemble yourselves and come and gather yourselves from north, south, east, and west to my sacrifice, which I do sacrifice for you. What is this? Dead bodies and vultures. Dead bodies and winged birds. Even a great sacrifice on where? The mountains of Israel. Folks, it's really elementary, isn't it? This is where these people, wait a minute, these people are going to be taken, what I just read in Luke 17. That's where they're going to be taken. To the mountains, not to heaven. They're not going to be taken to outer space, as your preacher tells you. The preacher will do anything to discredit Israel, folks. But the new covenant is for Israel, as it is written in Jeremiah 31, verses 31 through 34, and as it is written in Hebrews 8, verses 8 through 12. And if that is not enough, as it is written in Romans 11, 25 through 28. Can't get around it. The elect, the Israel is the elect. They're going to be gathered together by the angels, and they're going to be taken to the mountains of Israel when all these dead bodies are on the mountains of Israel. It's just that simple. And I don't believe anymore that it will start with 200 million men coming across the Euphrates River. Nope. That number is either 20,000, 30,000, maybe 40,000, but it's probably 20,000 coming from Europe. And they'll never see it coming. Amazing. Amazing stuff here. Pay attention. Watch Turkey, Russia, and Europe very carefully. I believe if you do that, you will not be caught unawares or caught with your pants down. Anyway, hope you find this helpful.